Hey guys, it is me, the former film student, back today with another video. And if you guys have seen my recent two videos, you'll know that I talked about doing something a little special in October. So I'd like to introduce you guys to the first episode of my 31 Nights, 31 Frights October special series. So what is 31 Nights, 31 Frights? Well, if you guys didn't know, and if you didn't watch my introduction video on this channel, basically I had a YouTube channel in high school where I did movie reviews, and one of the things that I never got to accomplish or finish on that channel is my 31 Nights, 31 Frights series. And basically the concept was to review a different horror film every day of October from October 1st all the way to October 31st. Talk about different horror films, new, old, classics, modern masterpieces, movies that are so bad they're good, ones that are genuinely great, and all that sort of stuff. Talk about some of my favorite horror films. If you guys didn't know, horror is my favorite genre, so October is just sort of my favorite month as a whole. I really love a good horror film, a good thriller, all of that sort of stuff. That's the sort of stuff I'm interested in writing and directing myself. More on the psychological horror and psychological thriller end of things, and less like supernatural and stuff like that. However, yeah, I thought it was a really cool idea, and unfortunately, like I said in my introduction video, I never finished that series. I ended my channel around October, early October, unfortunately, just due to, being discouraged about viewership and stuff like that. But, you know, that aside, I thought it was a really cool concept, and I really wanted to do something again like that. And now that I have a little more free time, I still work, but with school, it was, 6 a.m. every day, getting up, going to school till 2:30, and then football practice till 5, and I just, did not have the energy to finish doing that at the time. But now, I have some days off, and sometimes I get out of work at 4, and, I just have some free time. Yeah, I'm talking a lot right now. I do apologize for that. Not every episode in this series is going to be like this. I just wanted to do a little introduction for this specific video so you guys have an understanding of what's going to be going on. So like I said, doing a different horror film from October 1st all the way to the 31st, a different film every day. And just so you guys know, I'm not going to try to lie. I'm not going to try to, weasel around things. Yes, I'm going to be filming multiple reviews on certain days. Even though I have a little more free time now than I used to, there are some days where I still have weird work days. I work 2 to 10s, or sometimes I'll work a 2 to 10 and then have to work an 8 to 4 the next day. And so, there's going to be some days where I have off where I'm going to film, 3 to 4 different reviews. And I don't want to try to lie to you guys and make it seem like I'm reviewing a different film every single day, editing it, exporting, uploading to YouTube all in that same day. So yeah, you're going to definitely see some similar clothing. I do shower, I promise. I do wash my clothes. But yeah, so you're just going to be seeing a couple of videos where I'm wearing the same clothes and all that stuff. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up. But yeah, I'm really excited for this series. I hope that I can keep it strong and keep it up. I really think I can if I work hard enough, and it's something that I'm passionate about. Love talking about movies. Love talking about horror films. October is such a great season to watch horror films. It's all I've been watching recently. So yeah, with all that being said, let's get right into this first video. So today, the first movie that I'm going to be talking about is a classic of the genre and a classic of cinema in general, and that is The Exorcist. So The Exorcist is a supernatural possession film, and I know what you're thinking. If you haven't seen The Exorcist, you're probably thinking, I've seen this movie dozens of times, and I understand what you're saying, but this movie, this is the one. This is the granddaddy of them all. This started that genre. It may not have been the first film to ever do a supernatural possession and an exorcism, but I'm telling you that this movie is the one that really brought that sort of story to the forefront to make it a main staple in cinema. I think this movie is absolutely fantastic. The film is directed by William Friedkin and also written by William Peter Blatty, who coincidentally also wrote the novel that the film is based off of. And I think that aspect alone already makes it better than a lot of film adaptations, because you have the actual writer of the novel writing the screenplay and doing it really competently, unlike other, authors who think that they can write screenplays, cough, cough, J.K. Rowling. William Peter Blatty really does an excellent job with this script, and I think that, teaming up with William Friedkin really helped, bring it all together and really bring it home, because, God, there is so many things to like about this movie, and it offers so much, not only as a horror film, but as a film in general. One of the things that I absolutely love about this film is the cinematography. I think the cinematography in this movie is absolutely spectacular. It is such a well shot film, one of the best shot horror films I have ever seen in my life. It adds so much to every scene, the framing, the composition, the lighting. Oh my god, the lighting in this movie is unbelievably good. It adds so much atmosphere, so much personality, so much dread to each scene. If you've seen the poster for the film, it's Father Marin, played by Max von Sydow, and he's arriving at the house to do the exorcism, and there's just this soul light coming from the window from the house, and it's beating down on him, and there's fog, and it is so gorgeous to look at. When they're performing the exorcism, you have the breath coming out of them because it's so cold. It's so dark, and there's this like blue moonlight added in. The lighting in this film is just so spectacular. It really just adds so much to this movie, and it is such a visual masterpiece when it comes to how the film looks. And when cinematography is done so well that you can literally feel it, you feel the tone that they're going for with the shot selection and the lighting, then you know that it just did a fantastic job. And speaking of atmosphere, this movie from the start of the film just has this intense atmosphere, this looming sense of dread. Like right from the start of the film, you can tell that just something is not right. There's a lot of horror films that I think try to have this sort of everything's okay, oh, we're just, a normal everyday life, oh, normal teenage life, normal suburban family sort of situation where they try to, fool the audience into this false perception of happiness, and like everything is just fine and dandy, and sometimes that really works. I think there are certain films that do that really well, but for a film like this, right from the start, you just have this sense like everything is just gonna go horribly, horribly wrong. It starts with Father Marin's character in Iraq, and they're doing this sort of excavation, and he finds this little, I'm not sure what exactly it is, but it's like this relic, and there's just this scene that follows that, where he's studying the relic inside of this room, and the clock on the wall, it just like it's ticking back and forth, and the sound design is so perfect because it's just this very quiet scene with the only sound being the ticking, and it's like tick 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 tick, and then the clock just stops, and Father Marin just looks up at it, and right there you just know like something's not okay. Like something is just gonna go horribly wrong. And it's just so well done. Between Father Marin's very subtle performance in that scene, to the cinematography, to the sound design, to the decision not to use music. And I think in modern day that scene would have had like so much music. It would have had that probably really cheesy violin that we've seen in every horror film that tries to add tension, but more often than not just makes the scene feel very silly and overly dramatic when it doesn't need to be. Whereas this film just opts to play it so much more subtle, and it works on so many different levels, but the subtlety really just adds so much, integrity to the scene, and it just makes it feel a little more ominous, a little more terrifying. And the atmosphere, like I said, like I mentioned, the cinematography in the the final scene of the film, the final act, basically the final act of the film, is sort of this exorcism scene, and the atmosphere in it is just so, it's so well done. It just brings like this film that up until this point has sort of been like a constant, like sort of, it's going up, the tension's going up, and the stakes are rising, and it's slowly going up, and then the final act hits, and it just skyrockets into this, mess of an exorcism where you have these two priests trying to bring this little girl back and trying to get this demon out of her. And like I said, the cinematography adds so much to it, but the atmosphere, the directing by William Friedkin is just so good, combined with the performances, combined with the cinematography, that you just have this sense of like you never feel like something's gonna go right. You always feel like these characters are gonna lose right from the start. You always feel like they're never gonna really get ahead, that they've lost before they've even started playing the game. And not to say that they have, I'm not trying to spoil the film for you, but that's like just the sense that I get when watching it. I feel like these characters are beaten before they even get a chance to try to win. And again, not spoiling anything, not telling you how the film plays out if you haven't seen it, but it's just so good. I really, really love so much about this movie, especially the opening and the final act. Not to say the middle isn't great, because it is, But the opening is so strong and the closing is so strong that it just, has this perfect bookend to it. Another thing I want to talk about is the pacing in this movie. The pacing, I think, is absolutely fantastic. It never rushes anything. It really takes its time with the story to develop the characters, and I'll speak on the characters in a minute. But yeah, it doesn't rush anything. It's not trying to get to the horror. This works more as a drama first, horror second. And I think that it does such a spectacular job at that. And I honestly prefer that because although this film is pretty bone chilling and pretty scary, I definitely think that the mother daughter relationship and the sort of themes of religion and faith are just the best parts of the movie, and that a lot of that has to do with how well it's paced. A lot of films like this probably would have skipped over a lot of the character stuff, would have skipped over a lot of the, building up the story and building up these characters, and would have just tried to jump right into trying to scare you. And while I think, a film like this probably wouldn't work with modern day audiences just because our attention span has been minimalized so much, back in the 70s when this film was released, I think it was the perfect kind of movie, and the pacing just adds so much to it because you really feel like by the end of the film, like you finally just get to, you feel like you've been holding your breath for well over 2 hours. You feel this, tension released from you, that the film does such a great job of building, and a lot of that has to do with the editing, with the pacing. And, like I said, it's an over 2 hour long film, but I never really felt the runtime while watching this movie. You just feel like every scene is purposeful. You feel like everything that is put into the movie is meant to be there. You feel like nothing was really left out either. So the editor just did a fantastic job of making everything within the film, within the final cut, really feel like it was necessary and vital to the overall experience. One of the things that I absolutely love about this film is the characters. And the characters, like I mentioned in the pacing, this movie really takes its time to build up the characters and to develop them and give them depth. This movie isn't just meant to scare you or to terrify you, to make you not sleep at night. And it does all of that. But what it also does is really give you a set of great characters, and it does so many subtle and unique things that a lot of films just don't do. One of those being Father Merrin's character, like I mentioned, played by Max von Sydow. His character shows up at the beginning of the film in the first scene, and doesn't really show up again in the main story until the last act of the movie. He sort of just goes away, and yes, we do get a couple shots of him showcasing his character throughout the film, but he's never a part of the main story until the end of the film. It sort of just teases you, and it's done really, really well. I don't think this film could have been released today because the people's attention spans are just so small, and it's been so minimalized to the point where you'd probably have people complaining like, oh, why does this character just, show up at the beginning and not even come back until the end of the film? But it really, really works in this movie. But the emotional backbone of the movie, the character that really holds all the emotional weight on its shoulders, is Father Karras. He is the best part of the film. He's the best written character. He is the best actor in the film. It is just a spectacular character piece when it comes to him with his diminishing faith. He has a lot of issues with faith in the film. He's a priest who's sort of losing his sense of religion until he sort of meets this mother who so desperately needs her child to have an exorcism because this demon has taken her host, and you really feel all of that. There's a lot of stuff with his mother in the film. His mother passes away, and he feels like he just wasn't there for her. He feels like he wasn't a good son. So there's a lot of stuff with that, and the demon taking over the young girl's body really plays on that as well, poking at him, really prodding him, causing him to have these emotional reactions during the exorcism at the end. And there's just so much good character stuff in this movie, whether it's Father Karras's issues with his beliefs, or a mother trying to get her daughter back who's been possessed by this demon, or this, other character, Father Merrin, who really doesn't want to be a part of this. He doesn't want any of this, but he feels this sort of calling to him. He feels this pull to come and help his family. And there's just so many good character moments in this film. There's some subtle humor between characters, which I really appreciated. Not too many films take time to throw in a couple pieces of much needed humor to add some levity to the situation. But regardless, I really just all around think this is a phenomenal movie. It's a horror classic for a reason. I wouldn't go into this movie expecting to be the most terrifying film you've ever seen. I think you're setting yourself up for false expectations if that's what you go in for. If you go into this movie simply wanting to be terrified and to not be able to sleep at night, you might be a little disappointed because it has aged, and what scared people back then doesn't scare people as much now. We've been a little bit more desensitized to a lot of horrifying things. But if you look at this as not just a horror film, but as a film as a whole, it really does so many things right, whether it is the acting or the cinematography or the pacing or the characters or the writing. It just really works on so many different levels. The practical effects work really, really well in the film. In a film nowadays, it probably would have just used CGI and it would have looked really stupid and it would have looked really cheesy and fake. But the practical effects in this movie really make it feel real and tangible and like it actually is happening. All in all, I really, really love this movie. It's a movie that I don't even have a lot of nostalgia for. I didn't watch it when I was young. I didn't really watch it when I was a teenager. I think I watched it freshman year of college was the earliest I watched it, and then recently buying it on DVD and being able to check it out. And speaking of DVD, you saw me hold this up earlier. I think even though I really do love the poster for the film, the one that I mentioned earlier with Father Merrin's character and the light coming down from the window hitting him, I think that's such a great poster and great shot from the movie. But I don't know, I really love this cover. It's like this like dark around the edges. It's like this matted black around the edge with the Exorcist in red and the red light hitting Regan. I really like it. I don't know. I got it at Target for $5. They're having a sale on Blu-rays and DVDs in October and September for obviously Halloween and all that stuff. So I purchased a bunch of those, and you'll definitely see me pull a couple of those out for some of these reviews. I really wish they would have kept the red on the actual DVD case, because the actual DVD case is like green and I don't really like that as much. I like the red. I think the red looks a lot more cool and it looks a lot, scarier and more terrifying. But either way, yeah, I don't know why I pulled this out. I just thought it would be fun to show you guys. But yeah, so anyway, I watched the extended director's cut. That's the cut of the film I watched. I always try to watch the director's cut if possible, just because I feel like a lot of the time studios and editors, they might get in the way of a director's vision, even if what the editor is doing is trying to make the film more cohesive and better. It's always cool to check out what the director really wants in the film and what he doesn't want. But yeah, anyway, so that's all I'm really going to say about this movie. There's really not many negatives about this movie. I can't really think of a flaw that I have with this. It's a near flawless film. It's one that you really think about days after watching. It really messes with your head. There's a lot of really great, disturbing, and terrifying imagery, on top of it just being a really well-made film overall. Unfortunately, William Friedkin did not return for any of the sequels to this film. And as much as I really enjoyed The Exorcist 3, and I might talk about that during this Halloween special, I haven't really planned out every single film I'm going to talk about. I know there's certain ones that I'm absolutely going to mention, but I think maybe I'll do a video on it. I don't know. I'm considering possibly doing a video essay on it. I'm not really sure yet, so I may save it for that. But yeah, so that's all I'm going to say for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed episode 1 of 31 Nights, 31 Frights. Look forward to 30 more horror films that I'm going to be talking about on this channel. It's going to be a lot of work, but I'm really excited. I have 5 videos before this one comes out on this channel, so only 5. By the end of October, I should have at minimum 36. So it's going to be a lot of work, but it's also going to be a lot of fun. If you've seen The Exorcist, let me know what you think about it down below. If you haven't seen it yet and you go and watch it based on this video, definitely come back, comment. I'd love to have a discussion about it. Did you hate the recommendation? Did you like it? Do you feel like this film holds up? Do you feel like it's dated? I always like getting people's opinions on other films, especially talking about horror films, especially around October, just because it's, spooky movie season. But yeah, so that's all I'm going to say about this movie. If you liked what you saw in this video, make sure to click the like button, and if you want to hear more from me, make sure to subscribe. Click the little bell notification so you get notified when I post new videos. You might not have to do it in October, because you'll be seeing a new video every day. But yeah, so that's all for today. I will see you guys next time.